Welcome to Crushgasm, the podcast dedicated to the highs and lows of crushes from their first to their worst. We're going to cover them all with a cascade of characters, including our guest today, a man with a wife-proof crush, Scott Kurland, a proud dog dad, film snob, walking IMBD podcaster who is here to talk not only about his shows, Writer's Bagel Basket and Hell is a Musical, but also his crush on an actress and singer by the name of Jenny Lewis that's basically lasted a lifetime. Scott, how are you?
Good, Kendra. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm like rushing around today. I had like so much to do, but I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, yeah.
I actually legit just got done with work like 3 minutes before I walked in.
Me too.
I was like writing a review for this music site, and I was like, like that gif of like Kermit, like,
yeah.
So let's get to it. But to date, this is like the furthest back crush that we've had. And because you fell for Jenny Lewis back when you were like
4 years old.
4 or 5 years old, back in like the very early 90s. So was Jenny Lewis sort of the first girl you remember actually liking ever in life?
It's a tie between her and Jennifer Connelly from Labyrinth. Apparently girl's named Jennifer. But those were the two. I remember Jenny Lewis the most, and Jenny Lewis still to this day has been a huge crush of mine.
So Jennifer Connelly, sorry. I think isn't she in the new Star Wars show?
She's on Snowpiercer.
Okay. Somebody's in new Star Wars. I do have to mention that, like, at the time, even today, she was quite a few years older than you.
Yes.
Did you ever like clock that age difference as a kid? Were you like, maybe this won't work because she's like a teenager? Was that part of the turn on?
Okay, so with me, having crushes on people were so innocent because with my child lizard brain, like I'm realistic with my crushes. I knew as a kid, I'm never gonna end up with this person. They'll never date me because they're famous and I'm not. It's been more of a, like, I've said this on the podcast so many times. When I had a crush on a celebrity, I always wanted them to babysit me, and Jenny Lewis would have been, like, perfect babysitter age, because, like, I just always had a crush on my babysitter, so...
Oh, okay. I was like, okay, that's like a fetish or something to unwrap. Let's explore.
No, it's not a fetish. It
I was like,
I promise.
But I get it, because like older girls usually we see they're very hot in movies. I think of like Problem Child 2 comes to mind, his babysitter in that. All right. I don't remember if she was hot. I just remember she was an older girl. But that's interesting that you were very realistic with your crushes. Do you think that's maybe a male thing? Because I remember as a girl, like, there are 7 years between me and Backstreet Boy Nick Carter, but I swore up and down I was going to marry him.
I don't know. It just, with every crush I had, I just always knew that I was in one place and they were somewhere else. And in my mind, I could never get to that place. Like, I could never, if she was in LA, she's an LA person. She hung out with Tobey Maguire and Leonardo DiCaprio and that group of people. And I'm like, yeah, I'm never gonna get there. Nope.
Was she hanging like at the Viper Room when it was like the hot spot?
Yeah, and sashimi sushi too.
I just watched that documentary about like the bad side of the 90s, the Viper
Kid
Room
90?
one. No, the other one. I haven't watched that one yet.
I got 20 minutes in and I had to turn it off.
Was it not good?
It will destroy your nostalgia. Like me, I know from listening to your podcast that you're a very nostalgic person, and from us, texting each other to set up our two podcasts for this, you're a very nostalgic 90s person. It will destroy your 90s. Do not watch it. I got 20 minutes in and I turned it off.
I will skip that one. The one about the Viper Room, I think they do them very well. It didn't destroy anything from me because it's mostly about like the most infamous thing to ever happen there. So
River Phoenix, right?
Yeah. So it got more into just how that translated into like a different era of celebrity and the paparazzi obsession and So yeah, it didn't destroy anything. I did watch the teen TV one last night. It actually wasn't as good as the other two I had watched in the series. I was kind of disappointed. Anyway, let's get back to Jenny Lewis. We're going
Okay.
to talk about Troop Beverly Hills first because I feel like this is a powerhouse of the two movies we're going to talk about.
It's the one I saw first.
Okay, good. But I have to admit, I've never seen this movie. I know you just said I'm very nostalgic, but this is a movie that somehow like was not on my radar. I know of it. I get the gist of it though.
I think you would love it.
I know. One day, I'm gonna get to it. So I want to know, what was it about her character, Hannah, that you saw and you thought, my future wife, or not your future wife, my future babysitter.
I think it was because like all of my babysitters at the time were like Girl Scouts. Like they were high school, like I don't know what the equivalent of like in getting an Eagle Scout and Girl Scouts is, but like every babysitter I had was a Girl Scout or working for 4-H. Like I think that's why I had a crush on her, because she gave off this like very babysitter vibe, even though she was like a rich girl from Beverly Hills and her dad was Craig T. Nelson and her mom was Shelley Long. She just seemed the most relatable.
She did have this very girl next door, like typical Americana look to her as well. It wasn't like teens in like the OC where you're like, okay, that's never going to be at my school. Like, what?
That's exactly it. It's just like, you know, that you could have a conversation with her. She was really cool, and like she would just like this character of Hannah, of every personality in Troop Beverly Hills, like every other girl had like a gimmick. Like you had the girl who played Margot on Punky Brewster, she's in it, she plays the beautiful blonde girl. You have Carla Gugino, who plays the beautiful brunette. And then you have Jenny Lewis, who's like this girl next door who just wants to spend time with her mom. And I think the whole idea of someone who just wanted to hang out with their mom and like be part of a family, because the whole movie, her parents are going through a divorce. And spoiler alert for Troop Beverly Hills, they never sign the paperwork and they get back together. So
Aww.
she kind of parent traps that.
We love a good parent trap. But oddly enough, I have seen The Wizard. Her other movie.
So full disclosure, we rented them back to back from Blockbuster, and True Beverly Hills was my sister's pick. The Wizard was of course mine. So we watched them back to back, and I just remember my dad saying, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's the same girl. I'm like, it is. Shh.
So did you like think she was cute before that somehow, or did you, like just the box you were like, yeah?
She was also the first time I really saw Jenny Lewis was on the Golden Girls.
Oh, okay.
She was once again a Girl Scout who kidnapped Betty White, rest in peace Betty White, her teddy bear, and was trying to extort money and a bike out of B. Arthur.
Okay, I do remember that one.
So
when I was looking up her IMDb, I was like, oh, she's on Golden Girls, but I couldn't like recall the episode. But now that you said the teddy bear,
yep,
definitely know. But yeah, my guy, he made me watch this movie. I think it's on Disney Plus or something. So right when we got that app, because my hometown is prominently featured at the end of the movie with dinosaurs. And he was
really?
like, yeah. So when we first started dating, when he found out where I was from, he's like, oh my God, have you seen The Wizard? And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So yeah, he did make me watch it. And in that movie, she's like this video game master. Was that part of the appeal of her in that? Because I know you rented it for the video games probably.
So it's the little boy who's the video game master. She basically hangs out with people. Have you ever seen the movie Color of Money with Tom Cruise and Paul Newman?
No.
Her character, like if you watch that movie and The Wizard, her character and Mary Elizabeth Master Antonio's character are the same person. She just hangs out with the person who can hustle someone for money. You know, she's in it for the money.
So did you see that as like, oh, she's girl next door, but she can also handle her own?
It was more of she's an entrepreneur. Like,
she's a businesswoman.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I was like, okay, she can take care of these two guys. Like she has the best interest for Fred Savage, and she, you know, was like a big sister to the little boy. I forgot the actor who plays him, but all I know is he's from Little Big League. But Yeah, so I was like, oh man, Jenny Lewis, I think my crush, the more I talk with you about it, Kendra, I think my crush was like, oh my god, she's just so effing cool. Can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
She's so fucking cool. Like, I think that's what, like, the appeal of Jenny Lewis is. She's just so fucking cool. If you follow her on Instagram, if you've listened to any of her albums or seen her live in concert, she's just cool. She just is like the embodiment of cool.
So were you envious at all of Fred Savage because he got to hang out with her in that movie so much?
No.
like he's lame.
No, because like
Kevin.
I loved Fred Savage because he was Kevin Arnold.
Yes.
And also he was the kid in Vice Versa. And like the movies I rented the most were The Wizard and Vice Versa. So like I just loved Fred Savage and I love Jenny Lewis. I was like, oh, these two should be together. Like if they're going to be together, I'm happy for them. I hope they end up together. Good for them.
You have like the most mature take on a crush that we've probably had. You're like, I'm not going to be with them. I'm just happy for them. I wish them well.
Yeah, I try to think of it as a healthy crush because, you know, a crush is fine, but when you get into like almost, I don't want to say stalker territory, but like territorial, I've had friends, I've talked about someone on my podcast who was obsessed with a certain Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory person's guardian. That's where it gets weird. Like, so I never wanted to be like a territorial person. Like, oh, I have a crush on them. They're awesome.
I get you. Did you ever get a chance to go out west and go to the Cabazon dinosaurs? Because I must say they've gotten some makeovers in the last recent years. They're pretty snazzy.
So when I was out in California back in 2010, we were going to take a trip because not only was it in The Wizard, but it was also in Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And I found out they had a makeover. And I'm like, I don't know. No.
Yeah, inside it has become a creationist type thing, and they try to tell you that dinosaurs don't exist, but outside it's a very it's crazy that because that town is just like meth heads for the most part, so it's crazy that it's just this Instagram worthy picture for so many people. I'm like, you don't want to stop here, trust me.
So they're breaking ordinary.
Yeah, it's wild. I'm like, yeah, go to the dinosaurs, but then get right back on the freeway, or you'll probably get involved with meth somehow. Because it is rampant out there. That's why I don't live there anymore. I said at 5 years old, I'm leaving this town, and I did. Now, you also noted, we'll go back to Jenny, that you watched this TV series called Brooklyn Bridge. And
love Brooklyn Bridge.
It's like this award-winning show, but I had never heard of it. Can you tell us more about this show?
So I watched Brooklyn Bridge Friday. This is when it was on. It was on for 2 seasons from 1991 to 1993. Friday nights, my family and I would watch Brooklyn Bridge, and then we would watch, I think it was Picket Fences was on right after, or maybe Evening Shade, but we would watch like Brooklyn Bridge, and the show takes place in 1954, and it's basically about, you know, an ordinary family. If like Wonder Years was about the 60s, it was like Wonder Years, but set in the 50s.
Okay, that sounds cool. I would have checked it out. No, my family was more of a Fox family, so we didn't really watch those like feel-good shows a lot together. We were like a Melrose Place 90210 family. Why my mom was like, she would legit watch it with me, and when she had to work those nights, she would call and she'd be like, she worked at a liquor store, she'd be like, oh, what is Amanda up to on Melrose tonight? I'm like telling her the plot at like 8 is wild. But so like you said yourself, you're a walking IMDb, so you've obviously, you know, Jenny Lewis's career, but like back in the 90s we did not have that. So how did you kind of keep tabs on her when she kind of just was doing this and that?
I watched everything. I watched if I found out that like something was on and something else was on at the same time, I would literally put a tape in the VCR player and then go upstairs to my parents' room and watch what I wanted to watch on the other thing. So I'd record The Simpsons on one screen and watch Full House on the other. Like,
were you like a kid that loved the TV Guide?
Oh, absolutely.
Me too.
I collected them, especially when they had like collectible covers.
I know. When I went off to college, I had to leave all my stuff at my mom's, like all my magazine covers and everything. And rats had actually gotten in and destroyed it all.
No.
And I had like all the Star Wars covers. I collected all 6 of the Backstreet Boy covers because they did all 5 members and the group. I took the group to college. That was like one I took with me. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. So I was
the one I collected was Third Rock from the Sun. They had all 4 of them on the cover of TV Guide. They each got their own cover. So the one that was the hardest to find was the Joseph Gordon-Levitt one, but I eventually found it.
I can imagine because he was a hottie. And I can imagine seeing that like a little girl and being like, I need to get that. Which, speaking of, I imagine like back in the day, Jenny Lewis was probably in those Tiger Beat teen magazines. Were those something like you dived into, or were you like, nah, those are for girls?
It wasn't those are for girls. It was more of a, like, the type of person I am is it had to be either in CD or VHS form. Like, magazines, not so much. Like, if it was a book. So when they had, like, the novelization of The Wizard, I had that. And in the middle, they would have pictures from the movie.
Okay, I remember those at, like, Scholastic book fairs.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah, so they had that. I had a novelization of The Wizard. I also had, when I got into middle school, she did this movie called Foxfire.
I love that movie.
Yeah, she's great in it. So they did like a journal that you could have, and it was basically just the cover of the movie poster, and then you would write in it. So I had one of those too.
Do you think like teen magazines could have benefited more to like market to boys? Because they had like girls in them.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I think it's the title of Tiger Beat or Teen Beat. Like I think 17 magazine had the right title, but I think it comes down to font. I think if they changed the font correctly.
And the color scheme, maybe make it a little more neutral. Just don't put things about facials and, how to wear your thong right. Things like that. Maybe you guys would have picked them up more. I mean,
the late great Bernie Mac said everyone should get a facial and everyone should get a mani-pedi. So yeah,
True that. There's a lot of men out there who need those pedicures.
Yeah.
As Tan France said on this season of Queer Eye, your feet are not sandal ready, honey.
Yeah, my wife and I were watching that episode.
I was dying. I looked at my guy and I was like, your feet are not sandal ready, honey. Because we need to go get him one.
Yeah.
So when like Jenny was kind of like acting here and there in the late 90s before her music career started, did the crush kind of like not go away, but like simmer down?
Yeah, because, okay, so it didn't go away in 96 or 97 because she had like a few prominent roles. She was in this movie. Do you remember Little Boy Blue with Ryan Phillippe?
I remember that title because it had Ryan Phillippe. But
she was his love interest. It was about a boy in his like teens who wanted to fight his dad, who was an abusive alcoholic, and she was his girlfriend. And she also did the year before, she did Foxfire, and then she was in Pleasantville. So like, and then like 2 years later, she was in Rilo Kiley.
I was gonna say, you said you spent a great deal of time in high school obsessed with her band. How'd you like catch wind of them? Was it just because you're like pop culture obsessed and you're like, I know? And
no, I think you'll appreciate this. I didn't even know she was in the band at first. I didn't know it was her because it didn't say Jenny Lewis at first on, I think, the album that I had. So I was visiting my cousin in Indiana, and I went in Massachusetts, we have this line of record stores called Coconuts and Strawberries. It's literally the same owner, but he just called one store Coconuts and the other one Strawberries. And they had, under the indie section, albums that you could get, and I was obsessed with the band Pulp and Blur. And in this, if you like this, you might like that. Right next to it, they had This Is Rilo Kiley, and Takeoffs and Landings was the album for 2001, and I'm like, I'm about to go on a plane. Absolutely. So I got takeoffs and landings, and I got it because it said Blake Sofer was the lead guitarist and lead singer. And if you know, do you know where I'm going with this?
Yep. That was my next question.
If you know your Salute Your Shorts and also your Boy Meets World history, Blake Sofer, also known as Blake Sennett, was Joey the Rat.
I was going to say, you have talked about Boy Meets World on the show, and you've noted some issues with it. And I was going to say, did that affect your liking the band at all, or did it make you like them more?
So, once again, this was like 2001 brain. I didn't realize it would be problematic for a few years. So this is the rose-colored glasses. I was like 13 or 14. So 13 or 14-year-old Scott didn't think that deeply about things until I got into high school. So I was still in middle school. And I was like, cool, it's Joey the Rat.
I know that I didn't have the internet growing up, so when I got to college in 2005, I was just like Googling everything. I was like, cake, Googling it, pictures of cake. And I would Google all these old TV shows and everything. And I was like, oh my God, because I had a crush on him. So I was like, where is he today? And I was like, oh wow, he's in a band. That's cool. But yeah. I never listened to him though, but yeah.
His music is great. He also has a band called the Night Terrors of 1921 or 23, but they are fantastic. His work that he does with Jenny and, just in general is so good. He could make a killing being like a composer for movies.
He's never done that?
He did one for this very controversial movie called Don's Plum, which is the movie that both Tobey Maguire and DiCaprio sued because they thought they were in a short film for a friend, but the guy turned it into a feature-length film.
Toby and Leo coming up a lot.
Yeah.
So Jenny Lewis, she goes on. She also has like a solo career alongside Rilo Kiley or after. And I wanted to know, is there any song in particular from the band or just herself that you feel best sums up your love of her artistry?
So it's funny you mentioned that. I met her in 2014 because she was on tour in Boston. There's this music festival called the Boston Callings Festival, and she was promoting her new album, The Voyager. And the song that like really relates, and I think this is why I'm so realistic about my crush, is her song She's Not Me is literally about every girl she's played in a movie is not the real her. And I was like, that is, I had a Ted Lasso moment. I'm like, I don't think you understand or appreciate how healthy that is. So that song basically, I think, sums up my relationship with Miss Jenny Lewis.
Now, did you go to the festival with the intention of making the encounter happen?
No, it was totally by accident. So in Boston, there is this company called Roxy Grilled Cheese. They're known for their food trucks. And Boston Callings Fest decided not to have actual vendors, and they had food trucks. And I was waiting in line for this grilled cheese, which is like it's a world famous grilled cheese, and you can get it vegan, you can get it any way you want it. But I just hear this voice, and like all of these people are like, oh my God. And I turn around and it's Jenny Lewis, and she's like standing right behind me. I'm like, oh hey, do you want to cut ahead? And she's like, no. And she's like, well, aren't you a cutie pie? I was like, I think you're the best.
What emotion took over when she called you a cutie pie?
I will admit I turned red. But that was also like I was on cloud 9 because that was the weekend that I went on my first date with my now wife. So, and that night after the concert, I went home and I texted her. I was like, have you heard of Jenny Lewis? And I got my wife into Jenny Lewis. So
say you and your wife didn't hit it off at that time, but you and Jenny did. In that grilled cheese line. What do you think you and Jenny's life would be like together today?
Honestly, I was well aware of her dating history, so I know that the shelf life isn't very long. And if you've listened to any of her songs, they're all about having failed relationships. So once again, me being realistic, I'm like, I would probably be like, have you seen the movie High Fidelity?
No.
I would be like John Cusack's character when he dates a rock star, where I'd be like, oh, well, that didn't work out, but I'm a liner note in one of the albums.
Well, that'd be pretty cool. I always wonder if people are, even if it didn't work out, are you kind of happy that you inspired a song that gets sung every night on a tour?
Also, I know deep down inside I would never pursue a relationship, because a movie that I was obsessed with growing up was Notting Hill, and like knowing what Hugh Grant's character went through, even though they end up together, I mean, I would never pursue or date a celebrity.
Nope, not at all, because realistic Scott here.
Yeah, my wife and I are the same way. It's like, yeah, we would love to like talk to someone, but we would never go out of our way to pursue a celebrity or date a celebrity. Like,
so now that we've talked about your realistic lifelong crush, let's talk more about you.
Okay.
All that you have going on. Now, I find it hard enough to do one podcast, so I can't even imagine trying to do two. So what made you want to do Writer's Bagel Basket and Hell is a Musical?
So Writer's Bagel Basket, I started that with a friend of mine, and I was so obsessed with just combining TV and movie. Sometimes we do more TV than we do movies. Sometimes we do more TV. More often than not, it's more movie than TV. But when my friend left the podcast, I had two options. I could either just like let it go or continue it. And one of my best friends in the world, Lil Martin, wanted to do something with me. So that's where Hell is a Musical came from. So basically, Writer's Bagel Basket became something that I was proud to do. It was something for me. It's how I get my, film snobbery and IMDB, knowledge out into the world, because if I have to keep it inside, I'll probably explode or die. And I've had so many great guest co-hosts, including my wife, who, honestly, she's my ultimate crush, if we're being completely honest here. She's my best friend in the world, and she's my favorite guest co-host, because I also get to introduce her to stuff that, like, I'll make a reference to something, and she's like, I have no idea what you're talking about. Then I'll show her what I'm referencing, and she's like, you saw this when you were 4? And I was like, yeah, I saw Jerry Maguire when I was like 8.
Yeah, it's strange how some people like grew up. Like, I had a friend who had never, like, Cruel Intentions was the movie to see when I was like 11, 12 years old. And I had a friend in college who was like, no, I never saw it. It was just too much. I was like, what? No. Too much. That's why you sneak it in. But,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you got to break it up. Like, Cruel Intentions was 99, so you can do a sandwich of She's All That, then Cruel Intentions, and then 10 Things I Hate About You. And also you can make it seem like that's educational because they're all based on plays and books.
Exactly. Or just be like, oh, I just thought it was, like a regular teen movie. La ha ha ha. Not blowjobs and girl kisses in the park, all that.
That's what they should have called the movie, Girl Kisses in the Park.
They should have. Great movie.
Yeah.
On Hell is a Musical, one of you loves them and one of you does not. Is not the biggest fan, I shall say. Do you think that Liz is warming up to them with each new episode?
Lil's is Miss Lillian Edith Martin. She is tolerating it, and as I said before, she is one of my best friends and supports whatever crazy thing I do, and I support when she flat out despises a movie musical, especially if you listen to our Mamma Mia episode. her seething over that film is just, amazing. But then there are times when her and I bond over our hatred. Grease comes to mind, and Burlesque.
You hate Grease?
As a kid, I did not. As an adult, I'm like, wow, this is so problematic.
Yeah.
And then Burlesque, it was just all about doing impressions of Cher.
Yeah, that's not a good one. That's not a good one, but what do you think makes a good musical?
I think my crowning achievement is when we watched Singin' in the Rain, because I know I know Lil's better than anyone. I've known her since high school. We've been friends since high school. And I know when something she at first doesn't want to like, and then all of a sudden like, oh my God, this is great. And in that episode when we talked about how great Singing in the Rain is just, I felt like a small victory. And then we did Tick Tick Boom, and she was not a fan of that.
You win some, you lose some with her.
Yeah.
Seems like a lot of losing with her. She's not too big on them. There are a lot of people, though, that are not into musicals. My guy is one of them.
Well, the main reason why we started that one, I didn't care whether or not, like, we liked the movie musical. As I said before, she's one of my best friends. I love just joking with her, and anytime we can make each other laugh and just, like, basically say something that catches us off guard is a crowning glory achievement. Most of the times that becomes the title of the episode. So like for Singing in the Rain, we'll have Singing in the Rain, and then we'll do a tagline. And when I came up with Confirmed Bachelor Dank Tinkler and she couldn't stop laughing, I was like, okay, this is great. And you know, I think that's basically what life should be about. Finding the people who you want in your life, who are your friends, who, in my case, my best friend in the world, my wife, and just finding those people and just getting them in your life will make things a lot better.
Now I want to take this back to your lifetime crush, Jenny Lewis. If you could
Absolutely.
have her redo any of the scores or soundtracks to a musical movie, which one do you think she would do the best?
Let's see. I'm going to stick more modern because I think that would be in her wheelhouse. As much as I love the movie musical Once, I think she could add something to Marketa Irglova's songs, because the movie Once is known for the song Falling Slowly, but like the female lead songs aren't that memorable. And if you've listened to any of Jenny Lewis's songs, they're so good. She even does a cover of a Traveling Wilburys song that, in my opinion, is better. So I think she has that talent of just elevating and adding some gravitas.
Well, Jenny Lewis, if you ever hear this by chance, get on it. Once soundtrack. Redo it.
The one soundtrack, or even like, I think if they made like a jukebox musical of any of her stuff, her album The Voyager or On the Line could easily be a movie musical.
Do you think she'll ever want to do what Alanis Morissette did with Jagged Little Pill and take it to any of her music to Broadway?
I don't know. I mean, she's so cool. I think she would be like, if they're like, hey, do you want to do this? She'd be like, yeah, sure, whatever. I mean, she's best friends with Bill Murray. And like,
all she did is Christmas special. I was like, interesting.
Well, he would find out when she's playing a concert and he'll just show up and hang out backstage and like sing along to the songs. So like, that just shows you how cool she is. Like, she's best friends with Bill Murray.
I mean, that does raise your cool factor. If Bill Murray's a fan of you, hell yeah. Because, I mean, how many people is he a fan of? But on the flip side, I do want to say, Writer's Bagel Basket, you dig deep into some of the more questionable things Hollywood has done, the decisions they've made, movies they've made. Do you ever get like frustrated knowing how much money is spent on certain movies and TV shows that just aren't great?
Oh my God, Kendra, it tears me up inside. It drives me crazy.
It's just like, you'll see it and you'll be like, I do it all the time. I'm like, they spent money on this. They spent money on this.
I turn into Jay Sherman from The Critic. I'll be like, look who got $10 million.
Is that a show that you kind of idolize a lot, maybe because you love movies so much?
Oh, absolutely. I followed The Critic from when it went to ABC to Fox, like, and I would make sure I knew what time it was on.
It's like not anywhere either. Like, I can't find that anywhere streaming.
I own it on DVD.
Lucky.
I don't want to condone any of this, but if you go on YouTube, they have all of, you'll be able to find it.
I will be doing that because I love that show. I just love the intro of it is such a good show. I loved when he would come on The Simpsons, like such a funny character. So after almost like 200 episodes, which movie would you say has the most ridiculous plot to date?
Okay, so most ridiculous plot? Do you mean most ridiculous plot or most ridiculous plot that it's good? Because this could go either way.
Most ridiculous plot, and you're like, how did this get made?
Okay, so that would have to be probably more recently what we watched. And I'm sorry to cheat on this, but the Holiday Calendar, the Netflix movie that episode I did with my wife, and then Home Sweet Home Alone, those are the two movies that frustrated me the most.
I think anything past Home Alone 2, just why?
Yeah.
Why?
Because the thing that frustrated me the most with Home Sweet Home Alone is the kid is the villain. These poor people, he stole from them. They're not trying to break into his house to be the wet bandits. They are just trying to get back something that is going to be worth $250,000 to save their home.
Oh my God.
That's the premise. That's the premise.
They're going to be homeless because of this isn't he like a little British kid too this time around?
Yeah, well, the twist is, and spoiler, he didn't steal the doll. He stole a soda from their house, and then they become best friends with the kid, which that's problematic in itself. But yeah, the twist is it was his nephew who stole from their house, and it was in the house the whole time. And, but they made this kid look awful. Like he defrauds a charity. It was so upsetting and made me so mad. Before that, I think the one that made me the most perplexed was probably The Room. But that's because that's a film that I love, but I still don't understand why I love The Room so much. I mean, it's the first thing that opens up my theme song to my show.
That's the one with the guy, with the James Franco.
That play,
okay.
yeah.
I was like, not the Brie Larson movie, Room.
No, not Room. No, Room is one of a few movies that actually makes me cry.
It was okay. I was like,
Yeah, it's a very upsetting movie. It's you can watch it once movie.
Yeah, that's like I say it's a movie. The movie with Idris Elba and Beasts of No Nation.
That is also a one
and done.
One and done.
And Precious.
Precious is a one and done. Requiem for a Dream is one and done.
Mm-hmm. All of those are like great, but I'm never going to put myself through this again. Thank you very much.
I understand why I was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we'll move on.
Okay.
So we are going to do a quick speed round, and it's going to focus on movies.
Mm-hmm.
And first thing that comes to mind when you hear what I say.
Okay.
The movie you wish you could watch again for the first time because it was that good.
That would be The Sting.
All right. Performance that was so good it made you want to cry. Other than Room.
Oh God. This is gonna sound so weird, but in the Green Mile, Michael Clark Duncan hit that role, that performance. It's when he's singing "I'm in Heaven" when he's being electrocuted. I was like, this is the greatest performance, and he lost to Michael Caine for The Cider House Rules. What is wrong with the Academy?
So much, but another story for another day. So your go-to blockbuster rental back in the day?
Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Was that a movie that you're like, why didn't my parents just buy this because you rented it so much? I had a lot of those.
Yeah. I'm guessing you listened to that episode.
I'm just like, why didn't it was like probably at the time no more than what, $20 to buy
$25.
Yeah, and it's like, but every weekend let's spend $5 for me to take home Milo and Otis.
We were always late returning it.
Oh yeah.
So like the math didn't. I think it came down to they knew I would like go through it. I would watch it so many times that the tape would break. So they would have to buy me another one. And I said, why don't you just buy two?
I know, it's like parents made some questionable mistakes back in the day. Mine was like, I always rented Milo and Otis. the Flintstones meet the Jefferson or the Jetsons.
I want to see the Flintstones meet the Jeffersons.
That'd be amazing with the Jetsons. And for some reason, my boyfriend's back. These like the zombie.
That is a film that was one and done for me. I was terrified of death as a kid. So a movie where Andrew, oh my God, what was his name? Andrew, I just remember him from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, but when he gets shot in the chest at the beginning of the movie, I screamed and ran out of the room. But then, like, the sleepover I was at, they got pizza and I had to go back in.
Ooh, I loved a sleepover with a movie.
Yep.
Your favorite movie snack?
Oh, always popcorn, no matter what.
Do you pair it with anything?
Raisinets and Goobers. I make trail mix.
My favorite is red vines and popcorn. I think it's like, the best taste in the world.
You're West Coast. You were West Coast, so that is red vines.
What do you guys have? Twizzler?
Yeah, it was. I worked at a movie theater. We only had Twizzlers. I asked if we could order red vines once to my general manager, and then he didn't talk to me for 2 months.
I didn't know it was a regional thing because my guy is from Pennsylvania, Ohio, and he was like, "Nah, Twizzlers," and I'm like, "Ugh, get out of here!" And so I'm surprised we're still together. Like Twizzler. And a movie role you feel Jenny Lewis would have been perfect for.
I had a feeling you'd ask that. Honestly, I would have loved to see her play Tracy Flick in Election.
Why do you think she would have been perfect in that?
Because if you have seen her in Little Boy Blue or saw her in Foxfire, like I think it's because her role in Foxfire is very similar to that. So I think she would have like crushed it.
I would have put her in Elf.
Oh, she would have been great in Elf. Yeah, the Zooey Deschanel role. I would have also put her in the Marley Shelton role in Pleasantville. No, you made these cookies for Whitey. No, I made these for you.
Well, now that we've casted and talked about her, can you tell us what you have coming up on like both podcasts in the coming months, March, April, May, if you know?
Yeah, so every month we do a different theme. So February is romance month. March is toxic relationship month, and we have a very special guest who I am literally talking to right now, doing the most problematic romance movie. Can't wait to talk about that.
It's so good.
And then in April, we do Garden Variety, so we have a little bit of everything. That's usually when I do like a Golden Girls episode or Quantum Leap.
Wildest show. And they're bringing it back.
I love Quantum Leap. I saw that today. I was so excited. But when we talked about Quantum Leap, I was like, what about when he has to like sleep with somebody?
Like, I didn't watch that growing up. My husband does a podcast about 90s shows, so I will watch them with him. And I'm like, what the? It's wild what got made then as opposed to what would get made now in terms of movies and TV and the money put behind it. It's crazy.
The answer is not a ton.
It's just crazy to me. So, Garden Variety, we got romance, toxic relationships.
Animation's coming up, and then in June, that's my birthday month, so it's Scott's self-indulgent birthday month, so I basically picked my favorites. Last year, we talked about The Thin Man, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. My dad and I did To Kill a Mockingbird. My dad's always on for Father's Day. Yeah, so... And then in July, we pick a celebrity, and it's called Stars and Gripes. And usually the gripe is, why don't they get enough work? The first one we ever did was Brendan Fraser. And then he had the Renaissance. So I think that my podcast helped with that.
You're welcome, George of the Jungle. So can you tell us where everyone can find you online?
Yeah, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. For Writer's Bagel Basket, you can also email us, writersbagelbasket@gmail.com. And then we also have an Instagram and Twitter only for Hell is a Musical. So, yeah.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me about your lifelong crush. And everyone, you can find all of Scott's information below. And until next time, keep crushing it.